Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Business and Facilities meeting of Wednesday, May the 7th. We will start this evening with the land acknowledgement of traditional territory, and that will be read by Trustee Connors, please.
Simcoe County District School Board acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabeg people. The Anishinaabeg include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that you please rise if you're able for the national anthem. The instrumental version of the national anthem is courtesy of Georgian Bay District Secondary School. I'll now ask Trustee Connors to read the statement of respect.
The SCDSB is committed to creating a culture of belonging, engagement, and success for all through deliberate actions and intentional focus in the area of equity, diversity, and inclusion. The SCDSB Board of Trustees will conduct meetings in an inclusive, respectful manner that upholds the principles of respect and human rights and allows all members, staff, and guests to participate fully regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, age, and ability, and gender.
Thank you. We're at item number 4 on our agenda, which is the roll call. We have no one joining electronically this evening, and we have regrets from Trustee Armstrong, Trustee Harrigan, and Trustee Talbot. The next item is the approval of the agenda, and is there someone who would like to move the agenda? Thank you, Trustee Connors, seconded by Trustee Grummett. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to declare a conflict of interest this evening? Okay, seeing none, we are at 7 presentations and delegations, and we have none. So with that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Thank you, Trustee Bites, seconded by Trustee Foley. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that carries. So we will go into closed session. Okay, everyone, and welcome back into open session. We are at items for decision on our agenda. The first one being the 2025-26 accommodation plan, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Van Nispen and guests at our table.
Thank you, and through the chair to the table. I'd first like to start off by thanking Senior Manager Kukin and Assistant Manager Klee, who are at the table here with me, as well as Manager Whalen and all the teams that at the board here that are involved in bringing together the not only the accommodation plan, but on an ongoing basis of keeping abreast of what's going on in our communities to support the development of this plan as it does affect not only today, but what our future schools and communities will look like. And so before getting right into the accommodation plan itself tonight, we just want to provide a quick update on our ministry-approved and funded projects. First on the list is New Oro, Medante Elementary, which is on target to open in September. It's looking really good. Staff will be moving furniture in, I believe, the beginning of July. So that one is in excellent shape for the fall. New Aurelia Elementary, we've got pre-consultation with the city was held in April, and site plan submission is scheduled for July, opening September 2027. Shanty Bay Public School replacement, all submissions have been made to the town and are awaiting site plan and building permit approval. They are currently reviewing water calculations, and target opening is on track for September 2027. Killarney Beach Public School addition, all submissions have been made and are awaiting municipal site plan approval. Target opening on that will be September 2027 as well. New Elkona Elementary School, this is in the pre-consultation has been completed, site plan application has been submitted, and building permit submission is scheduled for June. That one is opening September 2027. The new Hewitts on Dean Avenue in Barrie Elementary School. Approvals are close. Tender has been issued, and we expect a late summer construction start. And that one is as well on target for September 2027. We are going to have a very busy September 2027. New Angus Elementary School submissions to a municipality are complete and are awaiting approval, and we are currently working with the municipality to overcome some challenges with regards to traffic. There may be potential delays. Nantyre Shores Secondary School addition, site plan has been approved, tender has been issued, and we are expecting a summer construction start, and the addition will open January 2027. Hewitt's number 2, which is the Thicket Wood, south end of Barrie. It's an elementary school. Pre-consultation and site plan application has been submitted to the city, and target opening is on track for that one for September 2028. The new Wasaga Beach Secondary School, pre-consultation has been held with the town in April. Site plan application is scheduled for June, and target opening for that is September 2029. And lastly, we have the Banting Secondary School replacement, and we are still undergoing due diligence and working on the purchase and sale agreement with the town for council's consideration and hopefully approval. And that is the summary of the current projects. I'll take any questions with regards to those at this time, and then we can move into the accommodation plan.
Okay, Trustee Rafiq, please.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I have to react to those words, Angus, potential delay. We never like to hear that, obviously. I was just wondering if you could maybe speak to what we're doing to work with that and to mitigate and hopefully avoid any potential delays or anything that we could do in that if that's necessary, or just anything you might have to add to that.
Superintendent Van Nispen, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to Vice Chair Rafiq. We do continue working with township staff to work through the concerns and get to that point of agreement so that we can get the site plan agreement. The director has had discussions with the mayor as well, and then we will reach out to trustees for support in the near future if we do not get resolution.
Any further questions? Okay, I don't see anything. I would just like to express my extreme disappointment with the opening date of the new Aurelia Elementary School. I did my research. That funding was announced in 2021. We're going to open in 2027, 6 years to build a school. And I'm sorry, but it's not acceptable timelines. And this is one of the frustrations the ministry has had with school boards and the length of time that it takes us to complete these projects from the time the funding's announced. You know, the school is needed now. It's not needed in 2027. And I think to me, it's an unacceptable timeline to get these new schools built. And, to the community, I apologize that it's taken this long. I don't think it's acceptable. And we had indicated it would open prior to that. And so I'd like to know very detailed specifics of why it has taken from 2021. And I know when it was announced, we didn't own the land. And the Minister of Education at the time set an opening date of 2024, which we all knew was unrealistic at the time because we did not own the land. But to take an additional 3 years after that, to me, is just far too long. So, if somebody would like to provide the specifics of why it's taking so long, I think that would be very helpful. Superintendent Van Ispen.
Thank you, and through the chair to the chair. I can run through the timeline here that I have in front of me with regards to this project. Initial comment is this project was funded it was the final approvals under the old capital process, where we weren't authorized or weren't approved to do any work on a project until we did have ministry funding and approval. And so that then, upon that approval, is when work began on this. Site access in 2022. We accessed the site to conduct an environmental assessment, and at this time there were butternuts that were found, to which the owner asked us to no longer access the site until further notice. Butternut trees are protected under the Endangered Species Act and must meet certain criteria and follow a process for removal. The owner had applied through the city and the ministry for their removal, and had to hire a contractor to remove those trees. We then went through the evaluation process and the back and forth negotiations on the purchase of the site. Agreement for the purchase and sale was signed February 13th, 2024. Site access was not permitted until March of 2024, as the developer stated they would not allow us on site until there was an agreed upon value, and which didn't officially occur until the February timeframe. Tree removal permit, it was issued by the city in March of 2024. The permit was expedited by the city after the owners provided an authorization for us to access the site, and work was done at that point in time. However, assessments had to be done prior to that in order to for the migratory bird season and the bat habitat season, to ensure that we were in compliance with that. Site ownership was actually achieved on May 22nd, 2024. The town, on the city side of things, they had zoning bylaws, housekeeping that they had to work through. They went in, first round was October 7th, 2024 that they went. However, there was an omission, and so there was a second zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment that was passed on December 9th, 2024. We have, as indicated, we started pre-consultation with the city, or had pre-consultation with the city on April 22nd, 2025. It was a very favorable meeting. Staff is very on board on expediting this project, and having us submit as soon as we have, submitting information and submitting documents as soon as we have them ready for their review. From a design standpoint, this project has had some challenges, as the site itself is a triangle. It does have setbacks in relation to the gas line that runs down the one between the property and the park beside it. Some of the challenges with the repeat designs, which is what the ministry is looking for. This is a smaller school, a little over 300 students. So the initial design, when you're shrinking down the existing design, there was loss of learning space, and the feel and flow of the school was not going to be conducive to the education of students. So an alternate design was arrived at. Unfortunately, it is taking, or did take, some time to adjust that plan, as well as when that school was built. It was built when the ministry's space template, we were building to a 95, 96%. We are now building to a 90% of their space template. So we've had to shrink and already reduced. So, but that has worked out, and hence why we will be submitting for site plan approval this summer. So that's the timeline, some of the key points that have occurred along the way. Each project has its challenges. Could there have been more urgency placed in this project? Or it would have gained maybe months, not years, at the end of the day, due to some of the roadblocks and hurdles that we have encountered along the way.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on that. I think a very detailed explanation needs to go out to the community, an effective communication plan. You know, I have had a lot of inquiries with respect to this school over the last 2 years. I provided timelines. I provided an update to the community. There was a story in the media that I met the reporter on site. And so I think, in all fairness to the school community, that, and you know, we have schools with a lot of portables in Orillia, and we need to communicate why we're still behind and why this project is taking so long. And so I'm going to leave that with Director Stevens, but it's my expectation that we communicate openly and clearly with the communication with the public as to why it's delayed and why it's taking so long, some of the rationale for that. Thank you. Trustee Bites?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Lloyd, to Superintendent Vinnispin. Speaking of projects that seem to be taking a long time, I was wondering what the current estimated opening for the new Banting is, if you had an estimate for that, or any details you could provide the community. Also very anxious for that school to be built. Thank you.
Superintendent Vinnispin, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Bites. As noted, we are still going through due diligence and working on the purchase and sale agreement with the town for council's consideration and hopefully approval. There will be, as we are still working through the site acquisition piece of that project. At this point in time, I do not want to sign up to a specific opening date, as we do have a number of additional hurdles that we will have to work through after we get the approval from the town for the property.
Trustee Bites?
Yes, thank you. Through you to Superintendent Vinnispin, thank you for that, and anything to hurry it along would be most appreciated by the community. I know you guys are working very hard on what's going on, and we got a great update enclosed that we can't talk about yet, but so thank you for your hard work and in bringing this along. I know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, that it seems like nothing's being done for a long time, when in fact there's a lot being done. So I just wanted to thank you and your team for all your work at Banting to move this project along. Thank you.
Trustee Strong, please.
Thanks, Chair Lloyd. I think just part of the comments, and I believe Superintendent Vinnispin clarified this in his response to you, but that was something that really stuck out for me in the concerns over the timeline on the Orillia School, is that the funding models changed. Like, the school was funded prior to being the new rules of having to be shovel ready, and given the conversation that we've just heard here this evening, I can really appreciate why the ministry is wanting to only fund shovel ready projects at this point, because there are so many aspects of a project that, until it's shovel ready, are really outside of our control for timing and dependent on so many other external factors. And so when The province says, oh, we're going to fund this school in 2021, but nobody owns any land, nobody's done any due diligence. There's nothing that we can do about the fact that there's butternut trees on the property. There's nothing that we can do about endangered species. We have to respect that we have to check in 3 seasons for bats. That's part of the legislation. And it's hard for a community to wait all that time while, like, we're listening to bats and searching for individual trees, and they're saying, well, where's my school, because we're in a portable. But we have to follow those guidelines, and so I think that it's really good and forward thinking that when we make these announcements now in conjunction with the ministry, that we are shovel ready. So it's going to be, say, 18 months to 2 years usually, and the school will be up and open and everybody's in it and everybody's happy. And that's a reasonable timeline that people can get behind. And it's very hard to explain all of the things that go on behind the scenes. Hopefully, sending out some sort of communication will be helpful. I don't think anything's going to make people happy when they thought they'd have a school in 24 and they're not going to have it till 27. But I'm happy with the way that we're moving forward with these projects, in that before we make any announcements, determined things like endangered species and soil quality and archaeological reviews and all of these things that have to be done before we can put a shovel in the ground. So I guess I just wanted to address those comments as part of the conversation here, and as part of the accommodation plan, and also just noting all of the work that does go on behind the scenes before we get to that announcement now. And why things seem quicker now, but I don't know that they're actually faster. It's just a faster time publicly from the announcement, but we are always doing a lot of work behind the scenes to get projects ready.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? I don't see any. So we do have recommendations coming from this. Just Superintendent Van Nispen. Sorry, you're not finished yet. Rushing along. Sorry.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'll now get into the accommodation plan itself. So as the table is well aware, the SCDSB has experienced unprecedented growth for some time now. And while there's been noticeable slowdown in new home sales and building permits, significant accommodation pressures continue to exist in a number of our areas and will only increase as market conditions improve. By fall of 2025, elementary utilization will exceed 111%, and secondary utilization is expected to reach 104%. This translates into almost 5,000 students over the built capacity by this time next year. This is the major driver behind some of the board's most pressing needs. The accommodation plan provides a framework for school facilities and their use, and focuses on the board's immediate and urgent capital and accommodation needs, and provides an outlook on longer-term trends and needs as well. It also provides the basis for the submission of capital priorities to the Ministry of Education for their consideration. A reminder, this process, the capital priority process, is done at the time the ministry calls for those priorities and comes to board for approval before final submission. The accommodation plan builds off previous plans and is a living document updated annually. I would like to point out that the information, data, and ongoing analysis that is utilized to support our planning includes, but is not limited to, historical enrollment data and long-term projections, the tracking of all new residential developments in Simcoe County, demographic trends, provincial and municipal planning policy and legislation, and facility condition, renewal needs, and program information. Proposed projects for consideration within this plan. One of the most significant components of the plan is the identification of most urgent and critical capital and accommodation needs and proposed strategies to address these needs. Beyond our most recent project approvals, the 2025-26 accommodation plan also continues to assess additional needs based on a combination of the ministry requirements of being shovel-ready and urgent short and medium-term needs. Staff's recommended projects that we feel meet most of the ministry's criteria. And these are in the elementary, and the table has seen these in past, some of these or most of these in past capital priority submissions. We have an addition at Ardagh Bluffs, an addition at Baxter Central, an addition at Emma King in Barrie, an addition at Huronia Centennial in Elmville, a new Tottenham Elementary School, a new Stainer Elementary School, an addition at Nottawa Elementary School, and a replacement growth school at Warnica Public School. In our secondary panel, we have Collingwood CCI Replacement School, and we have a new Bradford Secondary School to accommodate growth. The accommodation plan also sets out future and additional schools, 32 of them in fact, that have been identified as being needed to accommodate planned growth within Simcoe County. As in the past, when the Ministry of Education releases a call for submissions, staff will bring a report to trustees for consideration with prioritized projects based on need and project readiness, shovel readiness. So recommended planning reviews within the accommodation plan. In addition to capital projects, the accommodation plan also proposes planning reviews, such as attendance area and program reviews, to help balance enrollment, create new attendance areas, and address accommodation pressures. Many of these reviews are required to create attendance areas for approved new schools that are slated to open in September 2027, going to be a very busy month. For each of these, neighboring schools, as identified in this report, will be included. Where possible, if secondary reviews are required, they are recommended to be completed concurrently in order to align secondary boundaries with elementary boundaries, while also balancing enrollment where possible. The reviews required in relation to new schools include 1, the new Aurelia Elementary School, 2, the new Angus Elementary School, 3, the new Barrie Dean Avenue Elementary School, 4, the new Alcona Elementary School, and 5, the new Barrie No. 2 Hewitt's Elementary School, and 6, the new Wasaga Beach Secondary School. Staff are also recommending a program and attendance area review for the elementary group of schools within the town of Collingwood. The purpose of this review is to balance enrollment and future growth in the community. The schools recommended to be included in this review include Admiral Collingwood Elementary School, both regular and French immersion track, Cameron Street Public School, both regular and French immersion track, Connaught Public School, and Mountain View Elementary School. Due to the number of reviews required, which is a significant undertaking, staff will take a staggered approach in the implementation of the reviews. Some will commence in the fall of 2025, with others following throughout 25-26. The majority of the reviews will be required to be completed by March 2027 in order to comply with policy and align with opening dates of the new schools. Staff will bring a plan in early fall this year with a calendar that will present the timing of each of these reviews and the key dates and elements involved with those. And for those that have been involved in the ones this past year, that will include the thought exchange, release of the thought exchange, getting public input. The open house, we've had great success the last 3 with having the public come in and interacting with staff, asking questions. And then, of course, when will come to board. There we good? Okay. Sorry about that. Other sections to touch on. There are also some other areas to point out within the document. In some cases, contingency plans are needed to address the most critical of facility condition and accommodation needs, starting on page 23 of the accommodation plan. Contingency plans are in place for Banting Memorial due to a facility condition index. Collingwood CCI facility condition, and then the Angus group of elementary and secondary schools, which is critical site limitations. The elementary schools have a lot of portables on them. Number 2, we have, due to previously mentioned growth, students generated from new subdivisions may not be able to be accommodated within their local schools, so holding areas and schools are developed. Students in these areas may be directed to other schools in the community. These areas can be found in the plan in the board's online application. The board also routinely closes schools to out-of-area attendance students for a variety of reasons. This could be due to overutilization, holding, septic capacity, or program reasons. Except for 21 schools shown on page 27 in the plan, all elementary schools are closed to out-of-area attendance requests unless there is extenuating circumstances. All secondary schools, with the exception of Aurelia Secondary School, remain open to consideration for out-of-area attendance, out-of-attendance area consideration. Note there is one exception in the elementary schools, and that is in the Sleeping Lions subdivision in Elkona, and they may apply to Lake Simcoe for an out-of-area on a extenuating circumstance basis. And lastly, we have, the board has many examples of facility partnerships that have been entered into and are in development. These partnerships have been proven to help with operating costs, improve services and supports available to students, and strengthen relationships and maximize the use of public infrastructure and dollars. It is essential that the board begin seeking partnership opportunities early in the planning process. The board continues to seek partnership in future projects where viable. And I'll just want to remind trustees and the public that we do have on our public website, under the capital planning section, up-to-date information and data that includes prior accommodation plans, school profile dashboard, facilities dashboard, enrollment projection data, programming information, capital priority project overviews and updates, as well as school holding areas. So lots of great information available for everyone on our public site. And so in conclusion, the Accommodation Plan 2025-26 provides recommendations, information, and initiatives referencing pressure points to help guide accommodation decisions. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Trustee Bites, please.
Yes, I thank you, through you, Chair Lloyd, to Superintendent Minispin. I am dismayed to see that, sorry, I have a couple questions. Recommended capital projects, that yet again, the new Alliston Elementary School is not listed on here because I'm assuming we don't have the land yet. And this school was urgent. I remember before we had to be shovel ready, this was one of our top needs and pressure points. And it's not even listed here. And I don't see it listed anywhere. And I'm going to keep talking about it because there is so much pressure. It's great. We have a Tottenham school on there, which is fabulous. Similar type of pressures experienced in Tottenham are being experienced in Alliston, and yet it's not even listed on here. And yet we have known about this urgent school that was just a sliver behind the need for the new Angus school is now, there's been 2 or 3 accommodation plans that's not even listed. And I have to keep mentioning it because it is a pressure point. People want to know when they're getting their new Tottenham Elementary School, when they're getting their new Alliston Elementary School. At least the Tottenham one's on the list, but I would be remiss if I did not ask why it is not on here and why it's not even mentioned at all in this report.
Superintendent Van Nispen, please.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Bites. On page 31, you'll find a chart that has a list of future school sites that we are in the process of working on obtaining, identifying location and whatnot. And you'll find in that list that there is, under New Tech, an Alliston Elementary site that we are actively working on obtaining, and then we'll begin the process of working towards that shovel ready, that those other projects that we spoke about earlier here and are called out at the beginning of the accommodation plan are in that position, that they are shovel ready and ready for submission to the ministry if there is a capital priorities call.
Trustee Bites.
Yes, thank you. Through you. Thank you for that. I appreciate, I did see that it is mentioned there, but I, as the trustee for the area, I have to really focus on it. I just want to know what we can do when we do have trouble getting land for urgently needed projects, and they're not shovel ready, but the need is extreme. And I'm wondering if there's an avenue we can highlight or something we can do to advocate to the ministry about how to get land for these desperately needed schools when there seems to be holdups beyond our control, like we talked about with the Aurelius School and obviously Banting, and now we're having trouble in Alliston again. So I was just wondering if there's something we can do or advocate as trustees, because it is very frustrating when you have such urgent, dire needs and there's just no land, right? And so then it doesn't even get on the list. And I love the shovel ready thing, because we're not going to wait 10 years to have a school built anymore, and things are going to move a lot faster. But there is kind of this gap in between where schools like the new Alliston Elementary, that are desperately needed much more than a lot of these on the list. But because of challenges in acquiring land, aren't even on. So, that's frustrating. So I don't know if you're able to comment or provide any insights into that. Thank you.
Superintendent Van Nispen.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Bites. So a couple of different comments around the acquisition of land. So we run into different scenarios when it comes to these properties, where you have a subdivision being built. Oftentimes we will have a designated site within that subdivision. Much more straightforward with regards to working with the contractor. We had very good success recently in the South End Barrie with the Hewitt's property there. There was a set agreement in place. It was a designated site. We were able to work through the process fairly quickly in terms of, I guess, property acquisition. You then run into scenarios where we don't have that designated site, or we are acquiring property that was never designed for or intended to be a school property, where you have a property that we're taking land that's adjacent to a development. And that's where we run into where we potentially have to do an expropriation, which adds complexity and timing to the project and the timeline there. With a lot of these projects, we are working actively on obtaining the property, getting property designated for us so that we can do that acquisition later. We do now have that shovel-ready mandate from the ministry, so we are, as I came to this board table, requesting the $100 million line of credit, so that we could move forward with these as soon as they're available, and we can get the deals and the ownership in place. So we are actively working on a number of these properties and their acquisition. It's just each sometimes brings its own complexity to it. You are absolutely correct in that with the shovel-ready initiative from the ministry, it does make that public announcement closer to the time that the school will ultimately open, but it doesn't necessarily shorten how long an actual school build project is. It just inserts that public announcement, public funding later in the process.
Thank you. Are there any other? Trustee Strong, please.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd. I just had a question about the boundary review areas, and I noted that Allendale Public School is in 2 different reviews, and I'm just wondering if that takes place at the same time or if those students and families have to do the exercise twice.
Assistant Manager Klee, please.
Thank you. Allendale is in a unique position because it's in 2 separate holding areas, the way that we've done the holding pieces. So we had to include them both ways, but we will ensure that there's no 2 double moves. We're going to go in actively to say that this is happening with this attendance boundary, and then this area is going to be considered with the other attendance boundary. It's just the way, Mapleview Drive is aligned in Yonge Street, and as well, the secondary feeders is unaligning themselves a little bit. So we made sure that we included them to whatever the feeder situation is. We can look at that and review. So no, the families won't be moved twice or be through that twice, but the school technically will be through it twice.
Thank you. Any Trustee Bites, and then Trustee Rafiq.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to, through you to Superintendent Van I wanted to ask about the contingency plan for Banting Memorial High School, which is a scary document. Obviously, a lot of upheaval if that comes. I just wanted to point out something that I noticed in 2016. It had a facility condition index of 31. In 2020, it was 61. That's up by 3 in 4 years, or 30 in 4 years. So one would hazard to guess that we're probably around 91 now because it's 2025. And the pressures and the critical nature and this contingency plan having to be enacted is growing exponentially. Like, I don't know if that's how it trends, but based on what's in here, I would have to say it's in really bad condition, and the quicker we can expedite this Banting replacement school, the better. But this contingency plan, I remember before COVID, it would have been, people got a lot madder about it. Now we're more about, we have online school, but basically, I just wanted to ask about its current condition. If you're able to comment, is this, extrapolation I've kind of done on the fly, have any merit? How much money are we sinking into preparing it every year? I know it's significant. I don't know if you're able to comment at all on its current condition. Thank you.
Superintendent Van Nispen, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Bites. So the facility condition improvement, the assessment that's done by the ministry, one of the biggest elements of that review is looking at the various components of the school and the age of them. And so by stating that a boiler is 25 years old, in the world of boilers, that would be potentially reaching the end of life. As you know, with a furnace in your house or a car that you drive, not all 25-year-old pieces of equipment age the same or operate the same, depending on maintenance, depending on original design and function and whatnot. Yes, the factor is going up because of age, not necessarily because of the functioning of the building itself and the various components. Rest assured, our maintenance staff, our design and construction team, we are looking after the building. We are doing necessary repairs and ongoing preventative maintenance in order to ensure that we've got a safe and inviting environment for our students and staff and their learning. But the reason that this project was put on the list and designated for replacement is it has reached its end of life. And once we are able to get the new school built, then we will retire it.
Follow-up, Trustee Bates?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you for keeping the old girl running and all the love and attention you give it. I know it's not easy, and I also want to thank all our staff that put hours into keeping it going. Thank you.
Okay, and Trustee Rafiq, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. I just wondered, I had a quick question about Angus Morrison. It said it's at site limitations for placement of additional portables. Didn't we take a couple portables out of there this year, last year? I'm just curious if there is room for more.
Thank you, and through the chair to the vice chair. We took one off, so we could put one back.
Okay, thank you. Not the best ever answer, but not that we want more portables back, just obviously wanting to know how close we are to that tipping point. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Trustee Bites.
Yes, thank you. Through you to Superintendent Van Nispen and the table. I just wanted to point out on page 36 that the Southwest Elementary Planning Review Area has the largest number of portables with 50, which is a huge number, just highlighting the urgent need for new schools to be built and funded in New Tecumseh and Essa and Angus. So yeah, 50. No one else even comes close. So lots of kids in portables there. Just had to say. Thank you.
Vice Chair Rafiq, please.
Thank you. And through the chair, that just spurred me on that I feel like I must say publicly as we discuss the accommodation plan that yes, thank you very much to your team. You do an amazing job of squeezing us all into the buildings that we have. But I would just like to say to our ministry partners, should they be listening, that we need to remember that Simcoe County District School Board is in critical condition. We need more space for our students. All of us, I'm sure, have areas within our areas that are absolutely exploding, and we hear problems from those schools all the time. We hear problems from those communities. Over full schools are not what our students should be learning in. They are not achieving their best, and our staff are not able to work at their best when they are in overloaded buildings. And we are in a critical situation here. We have been for a very long time, and it's just getting worse all the time. We are a growth board. There are a lot of boards within the province that are not growth boards. We are continuing to experience these pressures. And like I said, we all hear from those sections of our areas all the time. The schools are overloaded, which means the students don't get along as well. They don't have as much room to play outside. They don't have as much room within the school. They don't have the space for a music room. They don't have a space for a French room. And those things make a difference in a school. They don't have the room in the hallways to move around. They don't have room to play outside. The washrooms are overloaded. I've heard horrible stories of staff going to Tim Hortons at lunch to go to the washroom because there's no room for them to go to the washroom in the school because they're so overloaded. And that is not a situation that our staff should be working in, and it's not a situation that our students should be in at all either. I would think that our ministry needs to understand that. I would think that they would want to support our students to be as successful as they can. So I just want to take any opportunity publicly to talk about the fact that we very, very much need new projects within Simcoe County District School Board. I know there are many in my area. I should have looked so I could say a number, but I know there are many, many in my area as it's growing, but I know all of our areas are experiencing that. So I just wanted to say out loud that we really need some attention here in the Simcoe County District School Board.
Trustee Foley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you to Superintendent Van Nispen, just want to say thanks for getting Wasaga up and running. Really appreciate that. Looking forward to those shovels going in the ground. I'm happy to see that CCI is in the running now. When do you anticipate we'll be getting some notice, or do you have any indication when there might be some notice of when to make submissions on new bills? Any idea when that might be coming up? Any hint or nudge from the province?
Superintendent Van Nispen.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Foley. So for the next capital priority call, we have not received formal notice. However, some of the indicators that have been pointed out to us by ministry staff is that we do have the same government in place that established the shovel-ready process, and that they had started on a timeline of fall submissions of capital priorities. So although there hasn't been a formal announcement, speculation would be that we would see, again, as we have seen the last 2 falls, another capital priorities call this fall.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to that as soon as possible.
Might know more after the budget's released on May the 15th, and then funding after that. So hopefully there might be some indicators in there of timelines or available monies anyway. Anything further before we move on to the recommendations? Okay, don't see anything. There are 4 recommendations coming from this report. I'll read the first one, that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the attendance area and program reviews identified in the 2025-26 accommodation plan be undertaken commencing in the 2025-26 school year as set out in report number BFD1 2025-26 accommodation plan dated May the 7th, 2025. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Trustee Bites, seconder, Trustee Foley. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? And anyone opposed? And that carries. The second recommendation is that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the schools closed to new out-of-attendance area students for the 2025-26 school year as set out in report number BFD1 2025-26 accommodation plan dated May 7th, 2025. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Okay, Trustee Wilson, thank you. Seconded by Trustee Connors. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that carries. The third recommendation is the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the continued pursuit of facility partnership opportunities for capital projects under consideration as set out in report number BFD1 2025-26 accommodation plan dated May the 7th, 2025. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Trustee Grummett, thank you. And a seconder, Trustee Connors. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that carries. And the fourth is that the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the accommodation plan as set out in Appendix A of report number BFD1 2025-26 accommodation plan dated May 7th, 2025. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Trustee Foley, seconded by Trustee Bites. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So that takes us to the next item on our agenda, just a little matter of the 2025-26 proposed budget. Superintendent Van Nispen, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. So tonight, as per the budget season schedule that was presented earlier this year, we bring the 2025-26 proposed budget for recommendation. I'd like to start off by thanking Director Stevens and my colleagues at the AC table for their work throughout the process, listening to stakeholder feedback, and establishing a budget to meet the needs of our students guided by our strategic priorities. I would also like to thank Controller Landry, Manager Neeb, and all the business services staff who continue to put in that extra effort at this time of year to get this budget document brought together. Last week it was announced that the Ontario provincial budget will be released or tabled on May 15th. We expect the B memos, SB memos, and all the various documents, including the technical paper related to the 2025-26 budget and core education funding model through the Ministry of Education, would follow, if history shows us anything, will follow within a week or two of that provincial budget release. As of today, we have not seen any of those documents. This, however, has not prevented us from building the draft budget before you tonight, as we do not anticipate any significant changes to the core education funding model. In discussions with ministry staff earlier in the budget process, all school boards were directed to be conservative in their enrollment projections. From the funding standpoint, fundings projected by staff is believed to be conservatively and materially what the SCDSB will attract in funding from the ministry this year. This budget was developed as a status quo budget, continuation of current initiatives and focus, with a conservative student population growth of 1.4%, moving from 56,736 ADE, average daily enrollment, to 57,569. Let's touch on a couple of schedules that have not been seen at the table until tonight. On page two and 3 of the budget PDF, pages 64 and 65, is the balanced budget compliance report or schedule. The budget we bring forward tonight is a balanced budget operating within the funding that we are provided, now reaching $770 million for operating, and meeting the ministry's expectation and mandate. You can see halfway down that schedule that the balance for compliance is 0. As we have had in the past, a small operating accounting shortfall is created by sinking fund debt instruments and amortization of unsupported capital, which is all accounted for through our operations and surplus. The employee future benefit that has affected this in the past will be complete in our current fiscal year, so it no longer has further impact. And I will also note that that sinking fund will be paid and settled in June of 2026, so this will be the last budget year that I have to take it into consideration. 2 additional compliance measures were introduced with the core education funding model last year. These are intended to set guide rails around spending to ensure school boards are not moving excessive funds from their intended purpose. You will find that we are well within the compliance for both the school board administration and facilities and transportation areas. I have presented previously at this table that we were not concerned about meeting these requirements, as we have historically operated in these areas with the funds that are attracted by them through the funding model. Next schedule I will bring your attention to is on page 4 of the budget document, or PDF, page 66 of the package. The core education funding model lays out what we are expected to attract in dollars. The model does, as it was intended, present the funding in a simpler, more intuitive format, as seen here. Easier for the public to review. The ministry will be providing funding for pay and salary increases as per the finalized labor agreements, including the Bill 124 settlement. A conservative 2% increase in the facilities benchmark has been included as an estimate based on prior year increases we have seen. The ministry has stated that they will be, over a 5-year period, phasing in the use of the 2021 census information utilized in funding attractors such as the Special Education Statistical Prediction Model, Safe and Accepting Schools, and Indigenous Education Supports allocation. Transportation funding received some attention last year in that they have added funding for contracted special purpose vehicles, or vans, that we use quite frequently in our board. This addresses some of the operational pressures we have seen. However, this year will be the last year that we'll be receiving a transitional funding amount. It's the last year of a 3-year phase out from the changeover from the old transportation funding model to this new one. And that was that additional transitional funding was intended to support boards as we moved between the old and the new models. We will continue to assess, and when the funding ends, we will look at if and how operating costs are being fully covered. When this budget was compiled, as we often do at this stage in the budget process, we did not have visibility to what responsive education program funding initiatives, commonly known as supplementary grants, would be continued for the upcoming budget 2025-26 year. As such, and presented on Schedule 4 of this document, we did not include those recognized in the current school year, resulting in a revenue and expenditure reduction of about $4 million. We expect the REP funding will be included in the ministry's funding announcements later this, hopefully later this month, and upon that, planning will occur. This is consistent practice as what we've seen in past budget cycles. Now bring your attention to page 6 of the budget, or 68 of the package, and it's the operating expenses. As indicated, this is a status quo budget with increases related to growth only. Small inflationary increase has been worked in for utilities, insurance, etc., but this is covered by the usual 2% ministry increase for said operational items. Majority of our budget spend, 87–88%, is on staffing, which is our largest resource. With the status quo budget, we have maintained overall staffing levels while seeing an increase in the elementary panel due to enrollment increases, as well as a little administration and operation required for the opening of the new Oro-Medonte Elementary School. Consistent with prior year's budgeting, as we have not received the REP funding details, current positions associated with those have not been included, but will be added back upon confirmation of carried over or new funding elements within those the REP supplementary grants. So in conclusion, the draft budget presented here tonight for recommendation is status quo. It is conservative and has the Simcoe County District School Board meeting the ministry balanced budget mandate and compliance measurements while operating under the continued pressures of the 4 S's that we share with most, if not all, school boards. First one is sick leave, the cost of employees being off work, and ensuring we have occasional staff in place to continue the support of our students and the operation of our schools. The second is special education. Our board has done well over the years to holding the enveloped funding we receive for additional supports for students. However, we do have not only the pressure to stay within that funding, but also in other areas, such as transportation, where the cost of specialized transportation is costly and is frequently requested and required. Third S is statutory benefits. This is an ongoing concern in that the ministry will increase funding for contractual obligations, and I'll comment on that in a moment. However, do not provide additional funding necessarily for the increased cost of benefits that the wage increases attract or under regulation have increased, such as employer CPP contributions. And the fourth S is settlements. The ministry finalized labor contracts and settled Bill 124, resulting in wage and salary increases going forward. The ministry will increase funding directly tied to teaching staff as we report each teacher on a grid to the ministry. All other staff are paid through pieces of the funding model that are not position specific and have operating expenditures paid out of as well. The ministry will increase the funding by a percentage to compensate for salary increases, but is not tied directly to positions, and so this can result in underfunding of the non-teaching positions. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much. So, and I'm sure this is subject to change should there be any drastic changes within the funding announcement. Superintendent Vennisman?
Thank you, and through the chair to the chair. I should have gone to my next paragraph there. Yes, with the release of the ministry funding, if there is any material changes, which we don't expect, but if there is, then we will bring a revised budget back to the table for your review.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions? Superintendent, or Trustee Strong, please. Twice I've done that.
Getting some sort of a promotion here. I don't know. It's position change. Thank you, Chair Lloyd. First, I'd just like to thank Superintendent Vennisman and his team for providing us with a balanced budget that meets the compliance test. So thank you for that. It's very much appreciated. I did have a question on page 2. It's the balanced budget compliance table. On the education development charge expenses, and it seems to have gone up considerably from what we had in the 24-25 budget, and I was just wondering if you could speak to that.
Van Ispen.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Strawn. That is strictly a timing function. When we discussed the accommodation plan, we did identify that we do have a number of properties or potential properties that the school board is looking at acquiring. And so the timing on some of those has moved up for us. And in particular, when it comes to purchasing properties, if you're purchasing a secondary school site, you're looking at probably the $40 to $45 million range. So you'll see that our projection next year is in the $90 million range when it comes to required funding.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Vice Chair Rafik?
Thank you. And through the chair, I have a couple of questions, comments. I'll do a couple and then I'll stop if anyone else has anything. I just wanted to highlight what you had said about the pay increases have been included, but the sorry, my words are not coming to me. The benefits that go along with them are not. So I kind of want to highlight for the public, that's not something that everyone would be aware of. I'm a business owner, so it's something that I know a lot about, but it's not something that everyone runs into in their day-to-day life. So when you have EI and CPP removed from your paycheck, you have that comes from your money that would have been going to you. But when your employer also has to take off more than that, they take off what they took from you, and then that amount is pretty much more than doubled. So that part has to be paid by the business, which is this board. So I think that's millions and millions of dollars, I would think, or it's a lot of money that is not being covered. Those increases are not being covered by our ministry. And like I said, I just want to highlight that because I don't think it's something that everybody runs into in their everyday life, and so they might not necessarily understand that. So when those pay increases are covered, that is covered, but those benefits that we then have to pay to another government are not covered, and that is a lot of money. So like I said, I just felt like that was important to highlight and explain to anyone that might not have understood that, because that does mean a lot of money for us. And so you had said 78% of our money goes towards staffing. So we have a little bit of money to play with, right? So that money then comes out of that 22%. So the first thing that says to me is that's money that I could be using for student nutrition or some more certs or some more EAs, things like that. So I think it's really important to highlight that we have to spend a lot of our dollars paying CPP and EI to another government to cover those salary increases that have been negotiated with the ministry. So then they are not covering everything. And I just also wanted to ask for a bit of clarification on the implementation of the 2021 census. I know that's a big impact on our special education department. And so I know they had finally made those changes, but I was a little bit unclear. I'm sorry. So it's being phased in over 5 years. So when will we hit the point where we are using that 21 census? Because I feel like we're going to be a little past 2021, and I'm just wondering how far we're going to be behind by the time that actually comes into play.
Superintendent Van Nispen.
Thank you, through the chair to Trustee Rafik. So they did start that the implementation of that. Definitely 1 year, if not 2 years ago. So we are about halfway through the ramp up of that of those elements. Again, they are just a piece of or an element of the special education that goes into the special education envelope, if you will, as well as the Indigenous. But it does affect the funds that are attracted by the board. But they are, by the time it is fully implemented, we will be, as you indicated, probably 6, 7, 8 years down the road from that census.
Thank you, and through the chair. Great. So I just think that's important to highlight again, that's very difficult for us as a board. Simcoe County has changed a lot since 2021. We were working off, what was it, the 2006 census before that? So obviously Simcoe County looks nothing like it did in 2006. It really doesn't look a lot of what it looked like in 2021. If we think of what happened in 2020, 2021, that's when everyone started moving north, right? I feel like a lot has changed since then. I know our special education department has huge pressures with more students coming to us with complex needs. That's happening all the time. And so the more students we get, the more special education students we have. That's just the way it works. And so if we are working off a 6-7-year-old census. That's better than when we were working off 15 years old census, but it does not help us and it doesn't give us the accurate information. So again, I wish our ministry would see that that is a huge issue. Excuse me. Because yes, I believe it was just last year that we started. So I think we're looking at 2029, right? So we'll be about 7-8 years off already. So I can imagine how different our county will look then. So again, just wanted to highlight that that is another very large barrier for us. And then I had a question about transitional funding with transportation. You had mentioned that that would be stopping. I'm sorry if I missed it in there. How much is that we're looking at? I'm just curious how big of an impact that's going to make.
Superintendent Van Nispen.
Thank you, and through the chair to Trustee Rafik. Unfortunately, I do not have that number in front of me, but it is, when it comes to transportation, as we've discussed at this table here, we are, the funding we received is being 100% spent on transportation, if not a little more at times. So any dollars that are removed from what we are receiving will have an impact and added pressure on the operations of the transportation and the transportation consortium.
Thank you very much. Last one through the chair. If we could possibly have a follow-up on that, and so we could have that number. I'm just very curious of what it is because we are so tight with transportation, and as the new member on our transportation board, I know that even more than I used to. So if we had a heads up on what we might be looking at, that would be very much appreciated.
Trustee Bites, please.
Yes, thank you. Through Chair Lloyd to Superintendent Van Nispen. I was really struck by what you said about the 4 S's, and these are really big pressure points, and I think that it would maybe be good for us as trustees to write a letter to the ministry to advocate for these, because they are things kind of that keep compounding, right? Overcrowded schools mean, more trouble there, less, I'm not saying this right, but these compound and add a lot of problems. And I think that these need to be brought to the attention of the ministry. So I don't know if, well, obviously you're an expert in this, but maybe if you could help trustees put together a letter highlighting these kind of pressure points that we could maybe then advocate for.
Thank you, Trustee Bites. I will tell you that the issue of the underfunding of statutory benefits has been brought to the minister's attention many, many, many times, as have the sick leave challenges, the special education, and the underfunding of the Bill 124 settlements. Those were dealt with the minister directly on conference calls. They've been dealt with through advocacy, through OPSPA staff, with ministry staff. So it's not something that's not been brought to their attention. But basically, the answers back was they were not going to do anything about it. But it's still, a letter probably is a good idea, but it has been brought to his attention directly. Well, the previous Minister of Education.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have a new minister, so maybe a new set of letters.
Right. Are there any further questions or comments? Trustee Rafik.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I believe my questions may be directed both to Superintendent Van Nispen and Superintendent Jacobs. I was just wondering if you could give me some more detail on what CERT support we have. It's kind of a 2-part question, but first we'll start with Simcoe Shores. What kind of CERT support do we have with Simcoe Shores? Yeah, I'll just start there.
Superintendent Jacobs, please.
I'm through the chair to Trustee Rafik. So there is one CERT allocated to Simcoe Shores. We also have a special education consultant that supports Simcoe Shores. We also provide psychoeducational assessments when requested as well. And so a lot of we expect all educators to provide special education support in some capacity. And most of the staff, I did look into this, do have special education qualifications as well. So that's good to have.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you. Like I said, I kind of have a two-part question, but just to follow up on that one. So if I had been told by a member of the public that they couldn't go to Simcoe Shores, they were told because they didn't have the proper special education support for them, was that perhaps a mixed message? Because that is not a message that we would give out, I would think. So I guess my question is, so any of our students, no matter of their special education needs, if the Simcoe Shores is a good fit for them, is that something that we are able to provide for them?
And through the chair to Trustee Rafiq, I'm going to defer over to Superintendent Playford to support this, as this is part of his portfolio.
Superintendent Playford, please.
Thank you, and through Chair Lloyd to Vice Chair Rafiq. Any student that is a student of Simcoe Shores will be provided the same supports that a regular school system would have. Because of the nature of the program as an alternative program and 12 campuses, it does look different than a regular school. In a regular school, there might be a resource room, cert for the, as a group of students, other supports within that building. Having smaller classes, some locations only have one classroom, some have two, some have more. The what it looks like is different, but the application is the same, and depending on the need or the location, it may actually be more. Right, there's a couple of locations actually have EAs and a teacher, but the cert lead has a specialist, and when hiring, we ask for special education qualifications for the staff, and it's really a relationship with the lead and the staff. We always say good teaching is good teaching, and then when you have the extra qualifications and then the supports, even if it's spread out across campuses, the students get those supports. In my experience as a superintendent, the students are very successful when they go, and I know that we've toured a couple campuses, and it's that relationship above all with the supports, I think, that support the student in their success in whatever location of Simcoe Shores that they attend.
Thank you. One more.
Thank you. And thank you very much for that. That's great to know that our teachers there have the special education qualifications. So that's wonderful. Thank you. So I guess my next question might be very fast then, because it was about kids on SAL as well. So I'm just wondering the same. If a student was a best fit to go on and it's to a SAL program, would they have the special education supports that they need there as well? I know it's a very one-on-one situation, so I guess maybe those qualifications are from those teachers as well, but I just wondering if you could speak to that situation.
Superintendent Playford.
Thank you, Chair Lloyd, and through you to Vice Chair Rafiq. Absolutely. So for those who don't know, so a student who is approved for the SAL program or the Supervised Alternative Learning Program, they actually get registered from their home school to Simcoe Shores because of the support they can provide, with the goal of the student getting back to their home school, because again, they're more familiar with the student. They have all those wraparound supports that they've had before the student became a student of Simcoe Shores through SAL. There's two directions. There's non-academic and academic SAL, and the students are supported if they have an IEP or whatever, even if you just need support. They have those supports that come from Simcoe Shores, but Simcoe Shores, because there's 12 campuses connected to all of the schools, they liaison all the time. So if the student coming over, even if it's for 4 months, 3 months, that communication is there. So whatever supports the student would typically have in the regular school will be translated to the SAL program through Simcoe Shores.
Thank you. Are there any further questions with respect to the budget? Okay, I just have one, and I'm going to direct this one to Director Stevens, please. And I think in light of what's going on in the province, I'd be remiss not to ask this question. You know, the devil is always in the details, and with a very large budget, there's, you know, some of the specifics and the background and how you arrive at some of these budget lines are not brought to the table. So I just want to ask you and make sure that there is nothing within this budget that the ministry would find objectionable or would not be in keeping what the directive is from the ministry right now. You know, and so I just want to make sure, and I want your confirmation back to the table on that specific issue, because, you know, at the province right now, it is trustees that are being held accountable for that. And so I'm going to ask that question directly of you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, to the table. So we are confident that we are compliant with this budget, and we expect to see the ministry roll out their budget in the next few weeks. And if there is anything that comes from that leads us to feel we have not yet met compliance, then we will 100% bring this back to this board for approval of a budget that has met those expectations. So we have thoroughly researched and ensured that we are compliant, and it is incumbent upon us to bring you this compliant budget.
Okay, thank you. And my question was more directed to also that there's no spending in here anywhere that would maybe not be seen in a favorable light by the current Minister of Education.
Yes, I apologize, Chair Lloyd. I wasn't quite sure, and now I am. Yes, we are very aware of our spending and what is. You know, when we look at how we fund professional learning for superintendents, we've always been very conservative here in our board, and we continue to do that with this budget. And there is nothing in this budget that we wouldn't say publicly to this Board of Trustees.
Thank you. It was the answer I was looking for. So thank you very much for that. So I'm going to read the motion. That the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the 2025-26 proposed budget as set out in Appendix A of report number BFD2 2025-26 proposed budget dated May the 7th, 2025. Is there a mover for that? Trustee Bites? Thank you. A seconder? Trustee Wilson? One last call for questions or comments. Call the question. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And that carries. Thank you very much for everyone's work on this. It's a big undertaking and a big job, and I'm very hopeful that we don't have to come back for any revisions. But if we get more money, I'd be happy with those revisions, so that's okay. So that moves us on in their agenda, which is item number 3, which is the naming of the new Oro Medonte Elementary School, and that will be Superintendent McLean.
Good evening, everyone, and through the chair to the table. I had the distinct pleasure of being part of the new Oro naming committee. The principal of the new Oro Medonte Elementary School in the town of Oro Medonte established a special naming committee as per policy 4440. In that, she sent out invitations, to a respective trustee as well as student representatives and representatives of the township. The meeting occurred on April 8th, 2025. Suggested names. The names suggested were invited through a comprehensive consultation process. This included information posted on the board's website. Input was also received from parents, guardians, students, and community members and staff. A total of 100 unique school name suggestions were received. The committee reviewed all suggested names for the new school and arrived at a unanimous decision to prioritize the selections. The special naming committee for the new Oro Medonte Elementary School selected the name Horseshoe Heights Public School, with a second name being Horseshoe Hills Public School. Predominantly, the committee that had represented W.R. Best, led by many of the students, had a very incredible presentation and I believe won over many of the committee. The process took into consideration many principal factors, as outlined again in Policy 4440. The decision to select the name Horseshoe Heights Public School was based on the school's environmental setting. that's it.
Thank you very much for that. Trustee Grummett, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to the table. Yes, I was lucky enough to be part of that process, and it was really fun. I was afraid it was going to be much more stressful than it was, but the students that Superintendent McLean are speaking about were so enthusiastic. They had really spoke with their other fellow students, and they did this great presentation about, horseshoe, it says where it is, but heights can mean so many things. And they talked about, we inspire to do great things. We want to, be successful, and that's what heights really stands for. So they won the group over 100%, but the process was great. There was so many unique names. Like, it was really wonderful. So I'm so grateful to be part of that. Thank you.
So, Trustee Grummett, then would you like to move this motion?
I will move this motion.
Okay, so I'll read the motion. We have a mover, so we'll just need a seconder. That the Business and Facilities Standing Committee recommend that the board approve the new Oro-Medonte Elementary School as Horseshoe Heights Public School, as set out in report number BFD3, naming of the new Oro-Medonte Elementary School dated May the 7th, 2025. Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Vice Chair Rafik, thank you. I think it's a great name, and I'm really, the school looks wonderful there when you drive by it. It's taking shape, and it just looks wonderful, so I think it's a great name. Is there anyone else who has any comments on before we call the question? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And anyone opposed? And that carries, so thank you. And that takes us to items for information, and we'll just let Superintendent Van Nispen get back to the hot seat. All right, contracts awarded within approved budget. Superintendent Van Nispen, please.
Thank you, and through the chair to the table. We've got 4 contracts that are on this report. The first one is work that we'll be doing at Innisdale Secondary School in the science and interior renovations. This is phase 2 of a project we have going there. So we're going to be renovating 2 science classrooms. This includes all new finishes and millwork. We have the continuation of the renovation of the second floor corridor with all new finishes and lighting. We've got a roof replacement over the gymnasiums. If you've been there, you got 2 large gyms side by side. Get the roof on there, as well as we've got renovation of rooms for the Take a Hike program. The next tender we have is Eastview Secondary School with building renovations. Eastview is one where we've had multiple years as we're working our way through the building. This summer we're going to be replacing the folding partitions with drop-down curtains in the gymnasiums. We have renovations to the music rooms, and this includes all new millwork for instruments and acoustical treatments and flooring. We have renovations to a number of washrooms, as well as we have an exterior door that we will be replacing. Here at the Education Center, we have the curtain wall and eaves trough replacement, phase 1. So we have the replacement of the curtain wall system at exit F4, which is if you're coming from the east parking lot in. We're addressing issues surrounding the unit pavers at that exit as well. 35 years of settling needs to be addressed. We have replacement of exterior exit stair. That is an emergency exit that's out that end of the building, as well as replacement of all eaves troughs and gutters, as well as brick repointing and some exterior brick cleaning. And the fourth tender that we had was for the Upter Grove Public School washroom renovation. This is phase 2, so a multi-year project. We have renovation of 2 student group washrooms, and this includes all new finishes and plumbing fixtures, as well as renovation to 2 staff washrooms. Again, all finishes and plumbing fixtures. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that update. Any questions for Superintendent Van Nispen? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We have no correspondence. Are there any other matters for business facility? Okay, I don't. Oh, sorry. Director Stevens, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lloyd, to the table. I have been asked by a few trustees in regards to the webinars that are coming up from from the launch of the essential governance training, and one of them is next week during our meeting time, essentially. However, we would be able to ensure completion of our program meeting by 7 o'clock so that we could put the webinar on for trustees to view here. You wouldn't be able to get home because we do have a large presentation that we didn't want to cancel in program. But if that is the will of the table, we will make sure that happens, and you could register for that webinar and then watch it here. We would end the meeting by 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Any comments from trustees with respect to that? I think it's a good accommodation and it's very much appreciated. So I think, I don't see anyone objecting. So I think if that's the plan, I think that would be great to move forward that way. Okay. Somebody want to bring some popcorn for that one? Thank you very much for that. Are there anything else under other matters? Okay, I don't see any. Are there any notices of motion for the next meeting? I don't see any. So with that, I make a motion to adjourn. Trustee Bites, a seconder. Trustee Wilson, all those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.